Good morning, everybody. I am on the way to pre-K, taking little Ellie Jane. Ellie, can you say hi to everybody?
Hi.
How are you feeling today, sweetheart?
Good.
Did you have a good night?
Yeah.
Good. What did you have for breakfast?
Any eggs?
Eggs with the yolk runny?
Yeah.
Did Daddy put some cream cheese in with it too?
Yeah.
To make it extra yummy? And did you have any coffee today?
Yeah.
How do you take your coffee? How do you like it?
And Daddy put some cockroaches in it. And
Cockroaches in the coffee?
and rocks and dirt. I like it that way.
Rocks and dirt and cockroaches in your coffee?
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness, I have never heard of that recipe before, but that doesn't sound very good. And did you get to watch Little Cinderella?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I already finished it.
It's a fun story.
Uh-huh.
So everybody, I wanted to talk today about something on my mind that's going to be sort of a, how should I say it? One of those chats where I kind of ask for your input, because I would love to have your thoughts on this for a bigger monologue that I'm working on. One of the things that has come to my mind a lot over the last few years is the idea that it often feels like a lot of us that deconvert, especially if you deconvert later in life, but even if it's somewhere, midstream, it feels like there's just an awful lot of things about life that you kind of wish you could go back and have taught yourself at a younger age. There's just all kinds of topics and information, and it feels frustrating that you didn't know them. It feels frustrating that they were held back from you, like you were really deprived in some ways. And it just feels like you're kind of both reparenting yourself, but it isn't necessarily to say that your parents did or didn't do a good job, but it's just the experience of life. You kind of want somebody to have given you an introduction to living, an introduction to life. And in many ways, it feels like that would have been a linchpin that would have dramatically changed your entire life. And it's very frustrating to think that there are so many aspects of your experience now that you could have dealt with differently and better if you had been given certain bits of information. So I wanted to talk through just a few ideas about that, but also to say I'd love your thoughts on it and sort of your lessons. Like, what would you tell yourself if you could go back, if your 2 and 3 and 4-year-old self could actually understand adult conversation to a reasonable extent? What would you tell your younger self? I feel like a lot of it, there's obviously like some very basic things that fundamentalist Christians are deprived of, such as information about the universe, about science, evolution. How would it have changed your perspective on life to understand your place in this universe, small as it is, but it's still very different from what we thought it was. So very different than what we thought it was when we were Christians. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But that information, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg of what I'm talking about. But then also to understand the reality of how you think and how you feel, how your emotions work, how healing works. To tell yourself about the things that are going to trip you up in life. And perhaps crucially to think about and warn yourself about what are the things that are going to trip you up in terms of other people who are going to try to control and manipulate you and even just outright lie to you, especially as regards to religion. There are endless ways in which so much of our problems in this world in general, as individuals going through our adult lives. So many of our problems are based on the fact that other people have tried to put us into a system and control us. Whether they themselves wanted to control directly, or they just wanted you to be part of the system that they're in as well, so that you are all controlled together. But they wanted you to adhere to the party line, and they wanted there to be a continuity, sort of that Christian legacy, the heritage. They wanted you to be part of that, and it felt very safe to them to know that they were honoring their parents' worldview and that you're going to honor their worldview. It felt very safe, very comfortable. It was a huge comfort zone to them, and that pressure that was put on you to believe and to basically live the whole Christian culture, live the whole Christian language, the whole worldview, the lingo, everything. The pressure was immense, and the stakes were very high, and the rewards were very high if you did the right thing from their perspective. And when you realize that that's what you've been through, and that even people that supposedly, loved you, that when you really realize that they were completely vested in loving Jesus more than you, completely committed to that, that when you realize that they are they're living that out and pressuring you for years at a time, very stealthily, very behind the scenes, but they're pressuring you to follow in their footsteps and to live like them, to think like them, to talk like them, to behave like them, to not ask questions and don't rock the boat. When you realize that that's what's been going on this whole time, and you realize you've never really been given autonomy, not even a chance at autonomy. You weren't given autonomy, but you weren't even given a true option for it. You weren't given the information or the freedom of thought. Certainly the carrot and stick of heaven and hell and everything else. The community is very willing to ostracize you and tell you that if you walk away, that you are living a life that's dishonoring God and that's completely dishonoring to them, to the church community. You really get to a point where, as an adult, it hits you hard, that you have been in something, you have been in a system, in a heavily controlled system, and that you haven't really had a chance to know yourself, and that maybe as a child, if you could go back and tell yourself as a child what to believe and to think and to unthink and unbelieve and just clean the slate, one of the biggest things is to say, be warned. People are going to try really hard to control you. And then to think through, what does it look like if you are, as a child and a teenager, if you're aware of those dynamics and you can find a way to escape from that, if only in your head, if not out loud, but in your head, to say, I'm going to stay separate from that. I'm not going to be caged by Christianity or Christian culture. If you can get to that point of being so safe, making yourself safe, as it were, that at that point you also still have a huge amount of work to do to be healthy. Like, that's just protecting you from the bad stuff. Learning how to truly know yourself, learning how to truly love yourself, how to invest in yourself, how to invest in your mind and to invest in your body, how to see time as the most important commodity of your life, the most important currency, as they say, and to live, act appropriately based on that dynamic, and to say to yourself, I will put the most amount of effort that I can into understanding how my mind works, how my psychology works, how my body works, how they interact together. I will put as much effort as I can into figuring out what do humans do, like how do humans work, and how do I specifically work based on my psychology and my background, my experiences. You know, you have a chance with, if you could go back and tell yourself this, and I'm going to talk more about how to kind of actually do it now, even though you can't go back in time and do it. I'm going to talk about how to sort of do it. But you know, you have a chance to really hit a reset button here. You have a chance to hit a reset button and say, I will see myself and my existence completely differently than I've ever seen it before. And in that is an immense freedom to, you know, bring to the table all kinds of personal things about, like, you specifically, how you want to see the world and how you want to live. But before we get into any of the specifics about, like, me specifically or you specifically, our personalities and our backgrounds, our uniquenesses, our talents, just to talk about how do all of us do this. Because, you know, if you were to take like a class on cooking, I don't know if they do that in college or anymore. They used to do that when I was going to college, but you know, if you took a class on cooking or you took a class on something like that, where it's a talent, it's a skill, they're going to encourage you, of course, to bring your own flair to it, but there's going to be certain bare bones basics that they're going to teach everybody. And you know, every dynamic, every class, every specialty is going to have that, where you're going to have to learn some rules, and then you learn to bring your own flair to it. You know, I remember in English class they'd always say, you know, learn the rules, and you can't really break them the right way until you learn the rules, but once you learn the rules, you can break them beautifully. And that certainly is true, like with poetry or different ways to be creative with your language skills. But there's some bare bones basics, rules of life that I think a lot of us as adults are still, bizarrely enough, still not aware of. Or we're living as if we can act like they're on the fringe. I'm struggling with that a lot, I think, with physical body stuff. Like, just like, do you understand how the different foods you eat affect your body and your moods throughout the day? Do you understand how to eat in the most healthy way possible? I feel like I've been doing a lot of work on emotional and psychological stuff for a long time, but body stuff is more important to me right now, because I can just feel that this is that stage of life where I've really got to take care of myself. And if someone said, do you understand how if you eat this, or you drink that, or you do this first and that, if you eat your vegetables first before your meat, do you understand what's happening in your body, in your gut, and with your blood sugar? Just all of it. Do you understand what this does to your brain? And I don't just mean generic stuff like don't eat too much fast food, or you know, don't drink too much soda. I mean very specifically what happens when you eat specific foods and what's in them. And do you understand even more specific dynamics, like you know, the difference between bread that you could get from a store, or even they could make at home, but with the flour, you know, the flour that has been processed versus if you grind your own flour. It doesn't mean you have the time or the money or the availability to do all the things, but just to say, I understand how food works. I understand how my body responds to different foods. I understand, you know, what's at stake here. And that's one of my big goals this year and next year, to really get neck deep into that. But when you look back at that, you really should be like shocked. I'm shocked that this isn't something that's just absolutely required. Like, to me, you should not be allowed to graduate high school anywhere ever without being fully aware of how food works in your body. You should know, like, every high school graduate should know intimately how glucose works and how the different hormones in your body work. No, there should be no question about it. Every high schooler, and for sure college grads, should know it like the back of their hand, so that they can say, I know how to proceed for the rest of my life, how to eat in the most healthy possible way. You know, we catch these little glimpses of, oh, don't give your kids too much food dye, and don't eat too much candy or fast food, and you know, don't eat too much this kind of oil, saturated fat kind of stuff. And you end up thinking like, oh, I'm so smart because I know not to give my kids food dye. It's like, no, that's just like, that's like the introduction level. Like, you haven't even hit chapter 1 yet. And there might be like 20 chapters. Like you need to actually understand how food in the body works. And in a very similar sense, I think we are really crippled in our psychology and our emotions because that same dynamic is happening in just as serious, if not more seriously, on the level of who you are and how you think. You know, how does the human brain function? Not just physically, like in terms of understanding some of the medical sides of it and the science sides of it, but how do you process thoughts? It's one of the most interesting things too. This is a quick aside, but it's one of the most interesting things that I've seen regarding deconstruction and deconversion in terms of just saying to myself, if God were real, the variety of ways that people can interpret the same information is vastly different. And that leaves it wide open to interpretation. So you could say God could present, God or his preacher could present the gospel to somebody, and two different people in the church, or every person in the church, is going to see that same information differently. I mean, you look at stuff like Trump, and you can have Christians, even ignore the outsiders for a second. You can have Christians who say holiness and righteousness is critical. Therefore, Donald Trump is completely he's completely shipwrecked. He cannot. He is totally unavailable for that level. Like, God wants holiness and righteousness. Donald Trump is completely disqualified. And you have other Christians who will say this, start with the same premise. God wants holiness and righteousness. And they will conclude, therefore, Donald Trump is the best thing that we need. Like, wait a second, you started with the same exact thought. And you looked at this man and you came to completely opposite conclusions. That is going to be true of all kinds of aspects of God's nature and of stories in the Bible. When you look at someone that would read the flood story, or Ananias and Sapphira, or Daniel in the lion's den, or whatever, or hear an aspect, God is holy, God is righteous, God is loving, it's going to be so different based on someone's personality as well as their background, as well as their training, their education. And you end up in a spot where you think the same information can lead you to completely different conclusions. So how does that happen? How does one person see a set of information and feel one way about it and think one way about it, and someone else looks at the same information and feels completely differently about it? How does that happen? How does such a vastly different experience and outcome happen? Well, it's because your personality and your experience and your brain works differently than the next person, obviously. And when you realize that, you realize, I don't understand how brains can be so different, and shockingly enough, I don't understand how my own brain works. I don't get it. And a lot of us are going to have to admit that we don't understand how our psychology works. Why do some people get triggered and other people don't? Why do some people get so offended and others don't? Why do some people feel completely safe in their own skin and other people don't? And I'm not referring there to I'm not referring there to like traumas that people have gone through, but just saying people can feel so differently based on 1,000 different factors, 1,000,000 different factors. And even things like food, as much as food seems like a separate topic, how you eat is going to affect how you think and how you feel about yourself. And I kind of wish I could go back to myself as a child and say, there's some critical things that are going to affect how you feel about yourself. You're going to feel worthless at times. You're going to feel empty. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel like you're on the outside looking in. And a lot of it's going to be wrapped up from my experience as growing up in a Christian home. A lot of it's going to be wrapped up in what were you taught? What was your theology? And what was your worldview? And when you really start to unpack that and see the incredible power that those experiences and training will have over your mind, and that it's going to all just take your power away. It's going to take your power away for decades if you're not careful. And you'll wake up one day and realize I've left the faith, but not only, like, I've kind of got these two tracks. One of them is Christianity real or not? Is Jesus real or not? Then the other track that's kind of left, in the shadows is, who am I? Where do I go from here? Like, why didn't I know myself this whole time? And yes, Christianity stole a lot of your chance to know yourself from you, but a lot of it too is just you weren't told basic information about how your brain works. How am I going to deal with pain and loss? Just what is my purpose in life? And yes, as a non-believer, as an atheist, I don't see purpose the same way at all, but just still to say, how am I going to perceive my own purpose? All right, sweetie, we're almost ready to get you done. So let's get you unbuckled. It's almost time to get into pre-K. Whoops. You ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to keep talking to my friends, but do you want to say anything? Because it's your turn to chat now.
No,
Why don't you can we see your pretty thing? Nice. Do you want to take your hoodie off and show us?
No.
Oh, come on. It looks so pretty.
Okay.
Let's see.
I just have to press all my hair back.
Here we go. Nice. Can you tell us something fun about yourself?
I don't know.
What is the best thing about Ellie Jane? What's the best thing about being you?
I don't know.
Is it your creativity? Is it how much you love artwork and dancing?
Yeah.
Is it your beautiful smiles? Is it your laughter? Is it your love for stories? Like, what's the best part of being you?
Doing stories.
Doing stories? Can you tell us a quick story?
I don't want to.
Let me do one. Ready? Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess named Eloise Jane. We call her Ellie Jane. And Ellie Jane decided that she was going to open up the castle for a beautiful ball, and everyone was going to come and dance and have wonderful food and have just a great time. But the day of the ball, when everyone came, something happened. What do you think happened? Do you want to finish the story?
Yeah. Then a wicked witch came into the castle, and the wicked witch made the castle into a bad castle, and then everyone in here and then have very beautiful dresses. The rest has made them into dresses that look like a bad wicked witch.
Oh my goodness. How did it end?
And then a prince killed away the wicked witch.
Oh my goodness. And then they all ate chicken nuggets and french fries?
And then they ate a big meal.
Nice. All made with
The end.
What about the Nutella? You didn't tell about the Nutella.
And then they had Nutella toast. The end.
Nutella toast. Yummy, yummy. Well, I love you, darling. Hope you have a marvelous day at school. Are you going to play with your friends?
Yeah.
Good. What's your best friend's name?
Fairly.
Fairly?
Yeah.
What do you like to play with Fairly?
Well, I don't play with her much, but I play with her a tiny bit.
Okay. Very cool. Do you do any puzzles?
No.
No puzzles?
But I do drawings.
Nice. I've seen your drawings. You do a great job. Pretty amazing stuff. All right, baby girl. I love you so much. Look at that sunshine coming through your hair. Can you see it?
Yeah.
That looks so pretty.
Right here. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Hugs and kisses. Mwah. Love you, babe. Hope you have a great day. Please have so much fun, okay?
Yippee-daisy.
And remember, while I'm working all day, I'll be thinking about...
Me.
Yep, thinking about you and Owen and Abby and Ethan. Because I love...
And thinking about doing stinky toots about us.
Oh no, not stinky toots. I love you, babe. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Got your bag?
No, not yet.
Okay. You're next.
I'm gonna get ready.
All good? Here we go.
I'm not gonna open the door. I'm just getting ready to open the door.
Okie dokie, Smokey.
Okie dokie, himoki.
All right, sweet girl. Love you so, so much. See you soon. You got it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Ready, Nelly Belly? Ready, jump.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. So, let's see here. Get back in shape. So, getting back to what I was saying, you really are, I think, in my opinion, you're at a disadvantage if you don't take a big step back and say, I have been, yes, missing information about Christianity and its origins and the nature of Yahweh and all that, but I've been missing information about me. And I think a lot of us do ourselves a really big disservice when we start out and sort of stay stuck where deconversion is mostly to us about leaving Christianity. Deconversion is about leaving Christianity, but deconversion eventually, what becomes the much bigger aspect of it is you're escaping Christianity, but you're discovering who you are. This is about discovering you. This is about sort of taking Jesus and Yahweh and the Bible off the throne, of your life, and saying, I'm on the throne, not in some anti-Christian sense, but just saying, like, there's only one person who's ever been on the throne, and it's me and my imagination. I need to recapture my imagination. I need to recapture my psychology. I need to recapture my emotions. I've not known myself. I've never known who I really am. And not all that, honestly, is a Christianity issue. Some of that is just our culture. Our culture is not very good at helping people understand themselves. That's why you can have, young people who have such mental health issues and even being suicidal at young ages, because we're not used to thinking about who we are and how to process our experiences in life. Our culture just, sort of, we focus on information and passing tests. But the biggest test is not, do you remember history and English and math? The biggest test is, do you know yourself? That's the biggest test. The biggest test is always going to be, do you know yourself? And how do you relate to yourself? And do you connect? Do you feel whole and do you feel healthy in your own body, in your own skin, in your own thoughts? Are you safe in your own brain? Are you kind to yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you respect yourself? Do you know how to grow? Do you know how to thrive? And then, once you've got some bare bones basics to grow it on from there, because there's a lot more you can add to it. But that's what deconversion leads to. Deconversion is not about saying, can we please be more honest about the fact that the prophecies about Jesus or the Old Testament prophecies, they don't add up and they're bullshit. Like, yes, that's a big part of it. Can we talk about the mythology behind Christianity? Yeah, that's a big part of it. But that's not where this ends. That's not the ending point. It's really not. The ending point is really the beginning of the journey. The ending point of deconversion is the beginning of you. you get to know yourself again. And if you don't have the right tools, that's a hard process. And if you don't have the words for it, some of it really is learning the language and the vocabulary of self-discovery. Everything from your own brain, your body, your history, your background, your hurts, your wounds, your sexuality, your eroticism. Like, you need to have the words to express and to really, grasp, who am I? Humans have taken, millions of years to get here. Millions and millions and millions of years to get here. You're an amazing creature, and it's like you finally arrived. You're finally here on this planet against all odds. And it's like we treat ourselves as if we're, gutter trash. Just, something for the trash truck to be picked up, like whatever. We're just, what's in the bag, I don't know. It's not important what's in the trash bag. It's trash. Just, let it be a non-issue. Let it be a short conversation. I don't care what's in the trash bag. It's just trash. And we kind of treat ourselves that way. Like, I don't care what's in my mind. I don't know how I'm put together. Like, you're not trash. Yes, you're not valuable in the sense of like the divine value of you're a child of the King. You're not going to heaven. But it has been an incredible journey for humanity to get to the point where you exist. And you're finally here, and you're amazing. I mean, imagine, as much as AI is so amazing, we're like, oh my goodness, look at AI, look how far it's coming, and what could it do to transform our world for good, hopefully, and hopefully it can do amazing tests to figure out cancer, and take the information that otherwise might take scientists and researchers decades or a century to figure out. Maybe it'll figure it out in a month or two, or at least a year. It's amazing to think about how far AI could take us. But then you think, yeah, but as amazing as that is, and as much of a game changer as that technology could be, you are living technology. You are AI on steroids. You are the AI that's evolved from over millions of years from these little teeny cells in the water. Look at how far you've come. And then we struggle with questions like, I'm worthless, or I don't even feel like living, or I feel like I'm so depressed. It's like, you are so bloody amazing. It's off the charts amazing how cool you are, and how your body works, and how your mind works, and how your sexuality works. And then, but we just struggle, and I know part of it as well is political stuff and economic stuff. When you're ultra poor, and when I struggle with poverty a lot, and when you're depressed because you've got different issues in your family going on, and friendships and marriages dissolving, and just job issues. Like, there's a lot of reasons to be sad. I'm not discounting that, but I'm just saying, if you started from the earliest days of your life truly programming yourself to say, the fact that I exist and how I am, and how not how each human is, but how I specifically am myself, my personality, my talents, my gifts, the things I bring to the table. It's amazing. It's off the charts. If I can borrow the words, almost miraculous that I'm here, and that I am who I am, and that I get a chance, a real solid chance, hopefully, to live a long life and to make a big impact on the world. To leave a true legacy, not for this mythology garbage, but to leave a true legacy for the people that I love. And what an amazing thing that is. If you instilled that from the earliest days, instead of this worm theology of you're worthless and God, you're nothing without God, if you could undo it all and go back and hit the reset button, and from the earliest days see yourself as precious beyond precious, and amazing beyond amazing, and that was just drilled into your head, that was part of your psychology, your worldview, I am amazing in every way, you would see your whole life differently. You'd see your relationship with yourself differently, your relationship with others, with the world, your place in this world, your place in time. You would see it differently. And you would celebrate yourself. You would celebrate yourself all the freaking time. You really would. You'd celebrate yourself so much. And I want to list out all the things that I can think of, and it'll take a while. But I'm very eager for your input, but I want to list out all the things that if I could go back and say to myself as a young child, and where I could understand adult language and I could retain the information and the lessons, if you could do that, what would you say? And what I would say, being that that's obviously theoretical and that you're not going to be able to go back in time and do that, is that you sort of have to find a way to, in your brain, go back and do it. You know, your imagination is a powerful thing, and your ability to reprogram yourself is beyond amazing. And you're going to get to a point where you're going to realize you have the opportunity to sort of, not a pretend, woo-woo sense, but you do kind of get a chance to go back and reparent yourself. And I don't mean your human parents, I just mean like, call it, your Mother Earth, you get to reparent yourself in a sense and give yourself a new childhood. And a lot of life, that how people talk about how, the goal with, for example, finding a life partner is not to find someone to grow old with, but it's to find someone to stay young with forever. I love how people, kind of clarify and say those little cliches, but some of them have a lot of meaning. But, in a lot of ways, you're learning to be childlike again. And you're learning to go back and say, my body may be getting older, but my brain and my psychology is going backwards. Not younger in the sense of immature, but I'm starting afresh. I'm redoing the synapses, at least metaphorically, if not literally. I am at a point where I am able to be my own teacher. It took me a long time to realize what I didn't know. And it took me a long time to realize that nobody else is going to teach me. Nobody else is going to teach me. I have to teach myself. But once you do that and you begin to get the tools and the language to do it, and you say, I really can. I really, really can start over. That journey is so precious. And you get to a point in some ways where you almost can't remember life before. You almost can't remember what it was like to think in such an immature way as Christianity forced on you. I mean, Christianity is really a very immature worldview. Very immature worldview. And when you realize you were stuck in such a bizarre and immature worldview for so long, and you haven't had the tools or the opportunity to really be yourself and to thrive, and you finally have it. You finally have it. You finally have it. It's at your fingertips, but you do have to do some work. Some heart work, some psychology, some emotional work. You get to be the best you. You get to be the best you ever. Please don't let deconversion be about how to tear apart Christianity. Please don't let it just be about, I got educated on mythology. Deconversion is about you. It's about finding yourself, your identity, reclaiming it, remaking it, however you're going to phrase it. It's about getting back to basics, to ground one, level one. You have never lived a day in your life before, because someone stole your identity and made it under the auspices of the Bible and Christianity and Christ. And that was never real, it was never relevant, it was never healthy. Your life is precious, and so whatever years you've got left, and I hope for all of us it's a lot of years, but whatever years you've got left, you're not going to make them count, and you're not going to shine and thrive unless you get back to, who am I? How do I figure that out? How do I undo the bad messages? How do I replace them with good ones? And you're going to have to, in your mind, go back to yourself as a child and say, this is what I should have been taught. I should not have been able to get out of middle school and high school, and for sure college, without these concepts being just everything. And it was like people barely spoke about them. How do you love yourself? How do you respect yourself? How do you understand yourself? How do you interpret life? How do you understand rationality? How do you understand good and bad arguments about life? What are the fallacies that we all face on a regular basis? How do we perceive control mechanisms and narcissism? How do we understand systems of oppression and control? How do we perceive manipulation and propaganda? If you don't understand all that, and if you don't know how you process them, if you don't know how you are afraid of not fitting in, afraid of speaking up, afraid of ostracization, afraid of being wrong, afraid of hell for sure. If you don't understand all these mechanisms, and you don't understand your power to say no, your power to say I'm taking a different path, I'm not, and your power, and the less fearful path as you go along of being lonely, saying I'm okay taking the road less traveled. I'm okay not being in the group. I'm okay with groupthink being not my piece of this puzzle anymore. I'm okay taking my own path. And yes, I understand it will be lonely, but to say, I thought the loneliness would just kill me. And to realize in some ways it actually makes you alive. It hurts at first like crazy. But when you realize what it was doing to you, you realize this was like a medicine that was slowly killing you, and you finally weaned yourself off of it, and you're like, I never thought I could get off of that stuff. But now that it's gone, it's out of my system, and the further I get away from it, it's like, wow, look what it did to me. I'm so glad I'm out of it. There's so many aspects. I mean, I wrote down like 2 pages of just raw notes in about 5 minutes the other day. Just like to kick this off. It's been on my mind for a while. But like in terms of kicking off the actual notes. 2 pages in 5 minutes. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'd love your thoughts, love your feedback. What would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself as a younger child in terms of how to protect yourself from the bad things in life? Not saying protect yourself as in making vulnerability a bad thing. Vulnerability can be a very good thing, but just saying, how would you protect yourself from the abuses? Warn yourself, say this is coming. How would you take your power back and protect it from the earliest days? How would you help yourself avoid bad arguments from the earliest days? How would you help yourself love yourself from the earliest days? I'd love your thoughts, love your feedback. I'll work on this, I'll bring it up again from time to time and ask for input, and eventually when it's ready, I'll do a big presentation on it. To me, this is my bread and butter. Recovering our identities is so important, so important. And if you want to do that, if you want to give your kids the best chance, you have to model that. You can't model it if you don't go through it yourself. If you want your kids to be free thinkers, if you want them to have their power, if you want your kids to be able to have their autonomy, to avoid the abuses that are so prevalent in these systems of oppression and control, you have to do it and model it and help them think through it. And the coolest thing is, even though you can't go back and parent yourself, you can't go back in time and recover those lost years, you sort of get a second chance in a sense at the beauty of looking back and saying, my kids get to enjoy this. What a beautiful gift to give them. Yeah, it sucks that I can't get my own life back. But I've got some time left and I want to party it up as much as I can from this point on. But the best thing I can do apart from going back in time and from reclaiming the rest of my years is to at least make sure that the garbage stays away from the younger generation. Give them a fighting chance at beauty, a real chance. Pursue the beauty. And the more that you do this, the more you will be like, I can't believe that worldview ever sucked me into it, like a vortex, a whirlpool. I can't believe that worldview had me. And you'll almost forget about it. It's like a bad relationship, like when you've been in a bad relationship and then you you move on for a while and you heal and you take some time and then you find a new one, and the new person is just, they're real, they're genuine, they're loving, they're healthy, they're respectful, they're caring. And you eventually, like the old relationship that was so abusive and so toxic, you almost can't even remember that it happened. Because like that was like a lifetime ago. You wouldn't ever want to be that person again. You wouldn't want to be in those shoes, but you almost couldn't be in those shoes again because you would see the red flags so readily and respond like, I'm not putting up with this. That's what you have to do with Christianity and with all these other systems that can oppress us. I'm not putting up with this stuff anymore. I've got real life to get back to, real life to attend to, and it is high time to clear away the rubbish, to get back to the business of living. You're in the business of living. I'm in the business of living, and so many of us are in that business, and we have no idea how to take step one. We're just like, life is like, pay the bills, get some groceries, try to watch my favorite shows on Netflix. No. Life is for living. If you aren't metaphorically or literally thinking of your life as a poem and writing poetry, as a dance and you're dancing, as a book and you're writing, as a song and you're singing, as an adventure and you're traveling, if you're not a bird in the sky flying, if your life is about what's the latest show on Netflix or something, oh my gosh, there's a whole perspective that's about to be broadened, I hope. Carpe diem, friends. Seize the day. Life is precious. Time is precious, and it's short. And I don't just mean in terms of life is short, so hug your babies. Life is short, so hug yourself. Embrace yourself. And when you really do that, things like wasting your life away on shows for 10 hours on a weekend will be like, no. I got beauty. I got 1,000 photos to take this weekend. I've got 3 poems to write and 2 songs. I've got a dance to go to. I've got poor people to feed. I've got older people in a nursing home to go talk to and say, how are you doing? I've got so much love in my heart to give. I've got beautiful, beautiful books to read, classics that I need to get back to. I have beautiful thoughts to think. I have people to care about and check in on. How are you doing? Are you okay? I care about you. Life is beautiful. And when we get our eyes, ironically, onto ourselves in a healthy way, the interesting thing is you actually, ironically, get your eyes off of yourself. Because you're now free of the shackles and the garbage and all this stuff that said, you need to spend all your time trying to be worthy. You need to spend all your time trying to be, honoring to God. And instead there's like this secret level of your anxiety gets going on the whole time saying, I don't like myself. I don't like this life. I don't like how this is going. This feels so unsafe. This feels so bizarre. What is this? What the hell is going on? And all of a sudden, when it's like, oh, none of that was real. And I can just love myself. Just completely and simply, I can love myself. All of a sudden, you are free to, yes, do so much of your own heart work, your own reparenting, but then when you've done enough of it, you get your eyes off yourself. It just happens. You don't even have to try. You're just like, I see, and I see the wounds, I see the hurts. Everyone else around you you're like, none of you are healthy. None of you are sane. None of you are okay. Everywhere I look, I'm just all over the place. You're all stuck. You're all in prison. Oh my gosh, I have to do something to try to help this world. You're all stuck in prison for no reason other than some really nasty men from 2,000 and 3,000 years ago wrote some really nasty books. And everybody just kept on perpetuating the story. It's like, we've all been stuck in bullshit for years, for centuries, for millennia. Our culture is dying because of Christianity and other religions, specifically the Abrahamic religions. They have killed our world. And you're literally seeing your neighbors around you that are just zombies. It's like we're all just zombies walking around hoping for an answer and waiting basically for death. We're waiting for death to be like, this world is not my home. I'm just a pass through. I can't wait to die so I can start my life. You are in a death cult, both in your community, in your church, but in your brain. You're in a mental death cult, and you're also in a self-hatred cult. And when you finally flip that switch, and it starts to come together, holy smokes, wow, Everyone else around me hasn't even started. I'm now on like step 20 of 500. Everyone else is not even on step 1 yet. I'm like, I've got a long way to go, and I'm not a master by any stretch. And in many ways, I don't want to be telling people I've got all the answers, because I don't. But I can tell you what, I've realized I was a beggar, and I know where the bread is. And it's not Christianity for sure. It's not all these religious systems for sure. The part of finding the bread is getting back to the basics of who you are and loving yourself. And once it hits, you're ready to just be selfless. Altruism naturally occurs when you are free. When your brain is free, when your mind is free, when your emotions and your psychology is free, you're free from the shackles. When that occurs, you begin to live the best life ever. You begin to be yourself, the best you, and the best you, in my opinion, is the you that becomes less selfish over time. Selfishness has a place, a real place, and in many ways we need to relearn that, but there's also beauty in being selfless and saying, I have the keys to the kingdom, as we used to say. I have the keys to a whole new life. This is the real good news. The real good news is it's time for me to wake up, and I've woken up, and it's time for other people to wake up too. And once you see it, like we say about Christianity, the mythology, like once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see what's been done to you, and the you that's waiting on the other side, the beautiful you that's waiting, that's confident and powerful, and that can't be shaken by the world, and where you are able to, for example, look in the mirror and stare at your own eyes for 10 or 15 minutes and just say, be honest with yourself, and get to know your own eyes. Literally, know your own eyes. Look into your own psyche. Get to know yourself. Get to know your pain. Get to know your journey. Be brutally honest with where you are. Be brutally honest with the things you've set up to kind of mask it all. The crutches. The ways that you've tried to use, metaphorically speaking, try to medicate your life away. Get off of the goddamn medicines. I don't mean physical medicines. I mean the metaphorical medicines, the pills that are keeping you in these systems of control, and saying, if I just take the right assortment of prescription medicines, of a little psychology here and a little church there, a little bit of worship songs here, this whole concoction, if I just obey God more, read my Bible more, I've got all the right medicines and it'll make me feel good. It's not. It's not. Some of it's placebo and some of it's downright poison. You don't need things to mask the pain of life. You need to face it, face what's happened to you, and say, from this point on, I will be in more control than ever of my future, of my path, of what I think. The greatest battles of our lives are in our minds, what we think. And the greatest path forward is to be in control of our thoughts, of our emotions, and to say, I will understand who I am, and I will understand how to make myself healthy. And step 1 is to get the bad stuff out, and step 2 is to get the good stuff in by bucket loads. And I want that. I want that for ourselves. I want that for our community. I want that to be a word that we just spread far and wide. That we don't just say, we're the community that knows Christianity's mythology. Sure, that's a good starting point. We're the community that knows itself. We're the community that is healthy. We're the community that people look at us and think, that's what I want to be. I want to be that healthy. We used to say that kind of stuff about Christianity, like, I want the whole world, all the other religions and the non-religious people, I want them to look at us as Christians and be like, Christians have it going on. My goodness, I want some of that. Well, why is your light shining so bright? Oh, it's the love of Jesus and the gospel. But you do have a light to shine. It's not the light of anybody else. It's your own light. Let your own light shine. And people will see it and be like, your life is different. You are different. And wait, it's not because of Jesus? You're an atheist and you're that healthy? I thought when you left Jesus, everything turns to darkness and toxicity. You're telling me that when you left Jesus, your life got exponentially better? Holy cow, like what? How does that happen? Maybe I've thought about this wrongly this whole time. Maybe Jesus and the Bible and Christianity don't have all the answers. Because you all sure look a lot healthier than I've ever seen in a church setting. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. It will be well worth it. Any thoughts are welcome. Very open to feedback and direction, ideas, lessons you've learned, and I'll try to incorporate as many of them as I can into the final draft in a couple months, if not sooner. And look forward to sharing this with you. I really do. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Let's keep it going. Let's change this world. Love y'all. Have a great day.